France has in Africa, in Congo, in Rwanda, genocide. You call, you put it on social media. Tell me, you pray that these things don't play themselves on the international stage, but I'm afraid they will. They will. So Kenyans, they have issues with Raila Odinga, but those things will not influence the voting pattern. It will be about how Kenya has performed on the international stage. Kenya made a speech at the UN on the side of Ukraine. And in Africa, many countries are on the side of Russia, even if they don't pronounce it. They did. If you people are following what's happening on the side of Ukraine, on the same Russia-Ukraine conflict, South Africa is very passionate on that issue. On the side of Russia, they're very passionate. They've made their position known. On the side of Russia. And US, even under Joe Biden, they threatened to sanction South Africa and even pull him out of AGOA because of that conflict. You have made your position clear. You're on the side of Ukraine. Tell me that this politics will not play itself during the election. You pray that it doesn't. As I learned, he talks about we didn't have a better candidate. Well, have Kenyans ever heard of Erastus Mwenja, a career diplomat? He served as Secretary General of COMESA for, I think, 10 years. And before that, in various capacities in that intergovernmental organization. He served as Deputy AU Commission Chair for, I think, almost 10 years. Which candidate are you talking about? I mean, we elevate our biases to fact. We are immune to logic and reason. But when we do that, we assume the intelligence of our audience. Let's not do that. This is informalization of politics between two political operatives in Kenya that has nothing to the people of Kenya. They're sorting themselves out. But I wonder why they're scared of Raila Odinga. At 80, I don't think he's a factor in Kenya. No, at 80, he's not. So if you're desperate to process him out, then there's something wrong with you. I learned. Thank you.
Eli, with your permission, let me weigh in. And I think I want to piggyback on what Western said. And I think it is very important to appreciate that foreign policy and international relations is actually a lot and mostly informed by the national or internal issue. We have seen how the KK regime has done its foreign policy since it came to power. From the onset, they got it wrong. Nothing that has been done diplomatically that has been done correctly. And speaking of the judgment of the number one diplomat in this country, in relation to how he's dealt with issues internally, it starts to worry you that he's managed to alienate a lot of people because of his approach and his lack of taking time to understand the dynamics of some of the things that are done. I say this because ab initio, the issue of Western Sahara becomes a hot potato because he's trying to please everyone. Then remember, he was a darling of the West immediately. And because probably he was seen as someone who will be a golden boy, the US is avoiding him as we speak. And I think the last UNGA, he was given a very cold shoulder. For those who follow and who have an interest and without a bias, to be very honest, I don't hate Ruto as a person. And because honestly, as a country, if he succeeds, we succeed. But I think how he's done foreign policy is how not to do diplomacy. And probably it will be taught in schools on how not to do diplomacy. And he'll be a very good example of that. So when you have no understanding of some of these things, he might be, or probably would say he's succeeded in doing so many other things previously. But I don't think, in terms of diplomacy and communication in this government, they've been able to hack it. They have the most number of people who are responsible for communication. They've done the worst. And in terms of foreign policy, there's a lot to be done, especially on how Kenya has represented itself in the international stage. That is a fact we must admit. And the most basic thing, so that we don't even look like we need to go far. The crisis in DRC informs why Kenya to date, the ambassador who's been sent there has not been able to present his documents. Why the AFC or the Nanga pronounced his intentions in Nairobi. And Nairobi did not in any way repudiate that. That's problematic. And so this diplomacy requires subtlety, requires a sense of movement and stealth that has to be very acutely aware of the sensitivities of a lot of things and people. And the worst thing, pandering up to France, that is crumbling and losing its influence within the continent, would be the last thing that we should be doing as a people in terms of foreign relations and our stand on Palestine. These things cannot be gainsaid. We have not covered ourselves in glory in how we've done international relations. And if that becomes anything to go by, it could be a factor in determining. I could be wrong, but we would be very keenly and acutely aware and follow. And when it comes to fruition, Kenyans might celebrate that Raila has lost it. But for those who are aware and are interested in honesty and are clear about the issues, William Ruto will have played into his own failure. And sometimes you might think you're playing chess, but you end up playing checkers.
All right, that is Obed. I was following keenly on the direction you're taking, and I can tell for a fact you are not so confident about the candidate you're presenting based on our local politics and how they have affected our international policies and what I'll say IR generally as a country. I would love to now go to Eve to answer just a few questions that were raised by Jides Kamau. And I hope, Eve, you can remember most of those questions. And if not, we'll be able to bring them back to you. And then we will have Collins followed by Fabish as we try to call it a night. Remember, it's almost election night and things will be
Mm.
happening in Addis. Let's have you, Eve. Eve,
Thank you,
questions,
Eli.
time to answer.
Yes, thank you, Eli. Unfortunately, we had a little bit of a tremor here, so I lost the connection. I kept trying to reconnect back. I missed. I really wanted to hear GDES submission. Unfortunately, I didn't get the main points. So could I request maybe just a summary of what you wanted to say? I would appreciate it.
Sure, sure. Before we had the current prime minister, prime cabinet minister, vying for an elective seat, he said there were going to be an earthquake when he announced his candidature. So now that you're experiencing tremors, I don't know if that's a sign. They say, God, give me a sign. So let's have you, Jides, to be able to ask the questions. But there, to captivate it, he was asking, you've been talking about lobbying. Who have you been lobbying against? Are you speaking to presidents? Who exactly are you lobbying with? And there's the aspect of you getting involved from the word go. That means there is money involved. So, how much has been spent on this diplomacy shuttle that is seeing Kenya present a candidate to the African Union as the chair? And I believe there was three other questions. Jides, if I left them out, I grabbed those basic ones that I believe were important. But Jides, kindly clarify so that we can have Eve to come in.
Yeah, the other question is just to know who we are speaking with. Who is
Okay.
Eve? What is her role in all this? in all this campaign?
Thank you. Eli, can you get me?
Yes, if you can, we can get you. So, who are you? You've been involved to the word go. How much have we spent in these campaigns? And yeah, let's start with those two and then the last one.
Thank you. So, who am I? My name is Eve Silima Wanjala. I work in international relations.
If we lost you, kindly go
Senior
ahead
policy
if you can hear
officer.
me.
Hello?
We lost you at the international relations.
Oh dear. Can you hear me now?
Yes, yes, we can
Go
hear you
ahead.
now.
Okay, thanks. So I worked for the African Union Commission for 3 years. That is from 2021 up to April of last year as a senior policy officer, specifically working on peace and security sector within the region, covering Somalia and covering DRC as well, covering the Sahel. So I am quite vast in regional politics, especially when it comes to peace and security. Now, how am I involved in this whole work? I was part of the team that did the scoping if Kenya has a position or has a chance to front a candidate for the African Union chairperson. That was in early 2024, between January and April. And I speak to it. That's why you had me kept saying I was involved even before we knew who the candidate was. So you would have heard that we had an executive council, an extraordinary one, in early last year that actually came up with a decision that said because the member states agreed that we're going to do a rotation, so we're going to stick to the Eastern region to front a candidate. Before that position was taken, the African Union was going to open up the position for everybody. So I was a part of the team that went and reminded them, no, we actually had an agreement, so we're going to lock it into the Eastern African region. So that was my role initially. That was even Raila Odinga expressed interest and was, endorsed by Kenya as the candidature. So that's why I'm saying I know for a fact we had potential other candidates that were not picked from that kind of poll. I think I had somebody said, why can't I mention them? I think at this point it's irrelevant. It's not gonna help anybody if I mention them and say it was this, it was Eli, or it was Obed's. That's not the point. Because I am part of the lobbying team, I will stick with my candidate. And I think Obed's, you understand that. So what else?
So, if the other question was, how much have you spent so far, being that you've been involved from the word go?
Yeah.
And yeah, and who are you lobbying against? Because when you say you are talking to, are you talking to the president? And just to even actually make it more interesting, Western here says we had to go with the with some escort to Burundi. Yet this is something President Ruto can easily do without going to Burundi. But of course, diplomacy has a different way of being
Yes.
done. You can explain to us that. Those two
Yes.
questions, if you don't mind.
Yes,
Yeah.
very quickly. You are correct, Eli. Diplomacy is not sometimes as straightforward as we would wish it to be. So there are those candidates or countries that you have a strong relationship with that you do not necessarily have to go and see them in person. So those ones, of course, phone calls would be made. We would use also our embassies and our consulates in those countries to go and pitch for us. But you'd also understand that there is a lot of importance that presidents would love to see, especially when you come in person. It means a lot to most of these presidents. Why Burundi? We know it's a small country. It's not maybe one of the major players, but they do have a vote. Burundi has one vote as much as Morocco has one vote, as much as South Africa has one vote. So we cannot assume and say because they're a small country, then let us not go. And you would be surprised to know that Some of this president would say, okay, I am with you, I am supporting you, but why haven't you come to see me? Does it mean that you don't value my vote as much as you value the vote of Senegal or for Uganda? Sometimes it's all about the optics. So I hope you understand that aspect. And actually, he didn't even just go to Bujumbura. He went all the way to another city that the president was having, some engagements with his citizens. So that shows you that it was actually important for him to go and seek out Burundi's vote. It's one vote, but it's an important vote as well. How much have we spent on this campaign? Unfortunately, I'm not in that docket. I'm not managing the finances. I'm not managing the budget and things like that. So I'm not in a position to say we have spent this amount of money, so and stuff like that. But we do know that Kenya is a free country. There is something we call freedom of information. So I know that once this whole campaign is done and anything, and if it will be in the interest of the people to know how much has been spent, I'm sure the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the campaign team would be able to place it on the table and show people this is what we budgeted for and this is what has been spent. That is also my hope. Even me, I'm interested as a Kenyan, as a taxpayer, to know how much has been spent in these campaigns. I hope that clarifies, Eli, hopefully.
If you can give an estimate, for example, you can tell us in the hotel that you're spending, one person, how much you're spending, then look at it. Mothers are giving birth on the streets. That's why we say you are misappropriating our money and we are bitter against it.
Jides, I hope I think that was you. I'm not in a position to tell you. The hotel I am in is a very cheap hotel, I would say. I'm paying $75 a night. So it's a fairly standard hotel for me. That's how I look at it. But that is me. And I will again say that I'm not in a position to say this amount of money has been put on this. That's not my docket. That's even not my prerogative. I think that one I leave it to the department that is concerned with. The best I can support or help, even for me, I know I would be curious to know is, if you're able to write to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs as a point of, freedom of information, like, hey, we know we had these campaigns, we know it was government sponsored, and of course it's taxpayers' money, so we have a right to know how much was spent. And I think they would float when they have balanced their books or whatever they do, they would float a figure and say we were able to spend this much. Because I think the same happened when Amina Mohammed was campaigning as well. I think at the end of the campaigns, the then government, which was being led by Uhuru, they came out and they said, for these campaigns, we spent this amount of money and those kind of things. So it's important for me as well to know the figure. It's just that I'm not in that part of the department to give you the figures.
Interesting stuff you're saying, Eve. And you know why Judes is asking that? I am also surprised with the hotel they have put you in. And this is not to say that you're supposed to be in a 5-star, but guess what? I am not saying these words. This is your parliament through the speaker who said this. Let's listen in.
As the National Assembly, and following a request from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, we have a delegation of 4 members traveling to Addis Ababa in solidarity with the Kenya candidate. The members are led by the chairperson of the Departmental Committee on Defense, Intelligence, and Foreign Relations, the Honorable Nelson Koech, CBS MP, the Honorable Haikam Miziki, CBS MP, the chairperson, Diaspora Affairs and Migrant Workers Committee, the Honorable Major Retired Abdullahi Bashir Sheikh, MP, Vice Chairperson, Departmental Committee on Defense, Intelligence, and Foreign Relations, the Honorable Millie Odhiambo, CBS MP, the Minority Party Whip, who joins the team in her capacity as a member of the Departmental Committee on Defense, Intelligence, and Foreign Relations. I'm also aware that other members of the National Assembly will be traveling to Addis Ababa as part of the leadership and citizens of the country in solidarity and support of the candidature of the Honorable Raila Odinga. Indeed, in line with the provisions of standing orders, I have received around 40 notifications from members intending to attend the activity. For clarity, these members will be traveling in their private capacities as citizens and leaders, and therefore will be self-sponsored. We allowed them for that patriotic duty. It's important to note that it is not unusual for citizens of a country, including members of parliament, to sponsor themselves to such high-level international fora. Honorable members, I say so because you have seen the usual barrage against parliament, that parliament has sent 100 members to Addis Ababa. We can very well even all go if we can be able to sponsor ourselves. But parliament doesn't have the resources to sponsor 100 members. So let's give some foot thumping to those who have bought their own tickets and gone to Addis Ababa. Addis Ababa is one of the very expensive cities in Africa. An average hotel is $400-500 a night. And those members who have sponsored themselves have done a patriotic duty.
Eve, how much was your hotel?
Eli, before she answers,
Just a quick
Another
one.
lie.
That's a quick one. My hotel is $75 a night. Very cheap. Very how can I say it? Very standard. Not Sheraton, not Hyatt Regency, not yeah.
So
and
this
even if that
500,
was
400
it's
average
a lie.
hotel
It's a
is what
lie.
I'm looking for.
That
Looks like
one
it's a
you
lie. Obeds,
it's
you can
not
help
It's a
me.
lie.
it's
It's
not
a
a
lie. I
lie.
speak with confidence.
Go
Hang on.
Google, just
If
go into Google
if
and Google Sheraton hotel, 1 room a night
if
today.
If you
if
don't know why
allow
Obed
me,
is saying it's a lie, allow him.
I might not be the one traveling and sitting there,
Yeah.
and I am currently probably in a position where I'm able to see some very serious IGO and what they do. You can tell me it's negotiated. The rates can go high because of demand, but the reality is even Sheraton and Hyatt Regency, Skylight, whatever you want to speak about in Addis, slightly on the high end unless you're looking for too much luxury. But I understand where it is coming from. The speaker has to do that. And it is unfortunate that we love luxuries. And even when we go for Unga, and what sometimes the people who are sponsoring you to go for the same thing spend in lower hotels than what we, the people who are sponsored, spend on. But the amounts, a debate. But I do this every day, so I think I know what I'm doing.
Obeds, you have nailed it on the head, because the hotel rooms, they have a standard rate, but when they see the delegations that are coming into the city and they are high profile delegations, automatically the rates, they shoot up. For mine, I told you I've stayed in Addis for like 3 years for almost 4 years, so I know the city. I know how to manage myself. So you would not find me in Sheraton. You would not find me in Hyatt Regency. But it might be on the higher side. But if you actually Google and check for the rates, they would tell you we are giving you the rate for the AU summit. So it is not it is almost similar to when you go to Unga. When you go to Unga in September or October, you might not even be able to afford a room in New York, just because they know it's a very high delegation that is coming. So sometimes there are those discrepancies. I'm not defending the Speaker of the House. I don't know him in person. I have no business with him. I'm just telling you the reality that is on the ground right now. Over to you.
So Obed, let's bury this thing kwa sababu leo the politics and the numbers, they will finally come. And Obed, you know these numbers too well than I do, because I know what you do and you do it very well. So you guys, in case you're planning to travel, the guy to go to his Obeds. And Obeds, hizo hotel umesema, when they tell us an average hotel, what is average? I'm just trying to look at it. Is it 400 minimum? Just clear that for me.
Well, the most expensive probably one would be Sheraton Luxury. It's one of the high-end ones, and then you have Hyatt Regency as a preference.
You are not
No,
answering
I'm
my
trying
question.
to
I
tell
didn't
you.
say which
Yes.
one is. No,
Listen
no.
to me.
I don't have time for that,
Listen.
Obeds. I need you to tell me one simple question. Average for any travel consultant will tell me on average, if you're going to this city, this is what you'll spend on normal days.
Okay,
When it's high
we
season,
shouldn't be having this.
expect
We
this.
shouldn't be having this back and forth.
We should, because GDS wants to know how much money has been spent.
Relax.
And we want to justify some statements or really, debunk them.
Okay, you're talking about $179 per night.
Thank you. So it's a lie. But on higher end, we'll find out. I'll be going there for high season. Eve, book me a flight. I'm coming to Addis. Having said that, let's cross over to the next speaker. Fabish has been waiting. And Fabish and Western have things to share with us.
Even
We are
Collins, I
trying
think
to
Collins
make
was
sure
to speak, and then Fabish.
All
Yeah.
right. I accept the
No, I
guidance.
think it was
Collins
that
and
you had
Fabish.
queued for.
Let's start with Collins. Thank you.
I hope I'm audible enough.
Yes, Collins, go ahead.
Thank
Na ni
you.
kama uko mahali wa msikiti.
Let Fabish go. Hiyo kelele itakuwa imeisha.
Aya, Fabish, the mic is yours. Please don't tell us about the hotel rates. Welcome.
Thank you so much. Asante sana, Mizani, Eli, Obed, Eve, and everyone. I think much has been said. First, before I give my submission, I have a question to Eve. Why wouldn't Kenya? Why did you have to front only one candidate from Kenya? Why was it not possible to front even two candidates? I give you an example. The deputy candidates that are there. Algeria have two candidates. They have Salah Francis, they have Salma Malika. Equally, Egypt have two deputy candidates. They have Mohamed Hamed and they have Anan Morsi. And of course, one candidate from Libya and Morocco, all of them from North Africa. So why did we choose to only go for one candidate, favor only one candidate? That would to say that it was only Raila in Kenya that was fit for that position. There was no other one that could have been fronted if indeed it was possible to front two candidates like we see what North Africans are doing. And another question is, since you are working, you are the one that actually, you are saying you are the one that endorsed. What was the role of Olusegun Obasanjo? Because we know that the person that initiated the process of Raila was actually first approached by the former president of Nigeria,
Ashley Young is obliged to get this right,
who talked with him wakati maandamano ilikuwa imechacha na Raila akakubali. So what is the role of Olusegun Obasanjo in the AUC? And we talked of the
Young is
funding
obliged to get this right.
of AUC. Of which I agree with you that yes, AUC 80% are funded by the Western powers, but one notable one is the US aid. And actually, US aid are not funding AUC directly, but they are funding the programs. One of the key programs that US aid is funding is the election of the AUC. Now that we are having election on 15th, and Trump having suspended the USAID funding and programs in Africa, I want to know the status of the election of the AUC. Who is funding? Was it affected by the Trump decision or it was exempted? And another thing is, it is difficult for and a very hypocritical for the proponents, especially wetu wa Kenya, kusema kuwa ati we are going to push for Africa to start funding the AUC, when actually these other regional blocks, including our very own East Africa blocks, ECOWAS, SADC, are still funded by the EU, by the USAID, and other foreign organizations. So even before you go to the main one, why did they first not curtail the regional ones? And you talked of Raila going to Burundi. Is Burundi not a member state of the East Africa Commission? We saw the other day the secretariat of the SADC wrote and consolidate the whole block of SADC to vote in favor of the Madagascar candidate. So why was it difficult for the secretariat of the East Africa Commission to just write, to the member states of the East Africa, and it could have saved the wastages of Raila, I don't know, going to Burundi, going to Rwanda, going to all the member states when actually we are one. So I think those are the questions that I will put before you. And now when I want to give few cents of submission, is that number one, I think Kenyans, the Kenya leadership are not honest about fronting Raila as a candidate. Number one, there is no any single benefit that Kenya is going to benefit from the Africa Union. Number one, Africa Union does not have anything that benefit any member states of Africa. They don't have legislation. They don't have the judicial power. They don't have the military power. They don't have the economic power. They don't have a bank. They don't have, any monetary value. So why would we have to spend a lot and yet we cannot gain anything, not even a loan, not even a grant, because Africa Union themselves, even they are still rushing for that grant. So there is no benefit at all. Whether that seat was going to, somewhere else, it was not important for us. We are not gaining anything. So this narrative that you people that you are lobbying, including you, Eve, that you want to convince us that, we needed this seat, a do or die for us to benefit, I think it is unfounded. It is not here nor there. It was just out of expediency, political expediency, to reward maybe Raila Odinga so that at least maybe he can give chance to William Ruto to play his politics. And one thing that we should also understand is that AU actually metamorphosed from the EU, Organization of Africa Union. And one thing that was made to metamorphose was because the Organization of Africa Union was fighting about decolonization of Africa states. But then AU now come and change the decolonization and go into the economic, but which it has even become a very, a steepy mountain to climb. So in my view, first, my position is that I'm praying very hard and I've even started fasting from Wednesday that may God not allow the way we are oppressed. May that plan flop very badly, and may Raila Odinga never see the light of the day. He may lose it, because we have problems in our country that cannot be addressed just because of the political expediency. So indeed, if there is God that we are praying, I don't think that God can reward someone from from other people being oppressed. So I and my family and my friends and many other people, I put it openly that I'm praying for Raila to lose that seat in at all cost. And my projection is very simple. Raila, all odds are against him, because if you see the SADC, they have 16 members and they are supporting the Madagascar candidate. If you see the ECOWAS have 15. Out of 15, 4 are not qualified to vote, so they are only left with 11. If that 11 is going to be split among the 3 candidates or even among the 2 candidates, Raila can only attain 6. The East Africa only have 8 candidates, and out of the 8 candidates, Somali candidature, I think, is a moving target. No one knows where we to land, and same with the Congo. So all odds are against Raila, and I think it is a walk in futility. And we as Kenyans later, we are going to ask for accountability of every coin that was spent, and we want to know the value that we are going, how we are going to gain it, even as we are going to lose it. Thank you so much.
Okay. Babish, you've decided we are going to start this space. We're actually ending this space. We are not starting. You've raised fundamental questions. I will request the room to think through those questions. You can actually share your answers and responses in the chat section, including Eve. I would love to get a quick submission from Collins. And ladies and gentlemen, we will be closing in 20 minutes. Keep time short and sweet.
All right, these are my remarks. I don't have any question to you. From the two earlier submissions you've made, my conclusion to this is that the AU seat, there is something being done, which I can only refer to as gatekeeping. Why block the other candidates from East Africa who were very ready and viable for this seat? They would have deliberated between themselves and come up with the best candidate. However, telling us that someone was pushed to be the best candidate yet they never met anywhere. Is it 3 or 4 candidates? Three from Kenya, Tanzania, Kikwete, and the other guy from Rwanda. That makes 5. They never deliberated on anything. So how sure are we got the best candidate? We were just pushed a candidate to run, and that was the case for me. I'll say this: we've already seen the interest from the other continents on how we relate to them. And for the example that was highlighted was the BRICS and how South Africa came in and the rest. Actually, my interesting part was the funding. I never knew that 80% of the funding comes from EU. Yet we always suggest that African problems should be rendered solutions by Africans. So it's very unfortunate for us. I'll say this: Raila has been in the AU under the docket of infrastructure and development from 2017. Sorry for the noise. From 2017, and I've seen he was relieved from that seat in 2023. Africa never benefited anything. Leave alone now Africa, even Kenya, we never saw anything from out of that seat. So how are we convinced when we get the chairmanship will benefit from anything from it? Anyway, it's something to try and trigger our minds to remind us that AU, whatever was planned by our forefathers to work for us, it's not working for us. So we need to go back to the drawing board and restructure this thing because it's not working for anyone. I wish to see, let's say, if there is the conflict from Congo, we don't need to see Tshisekedi going to Germany. We would have rendered that solution between ourselves as Africans. But it's unfortunate that he went to Germany. When it erupted, William Ruto saw it fit for him to go and consult from Macron. Why is that the case? So it becomes very, very controversial for me. And remember, Simon Mansa said this: if we don't handle our independence very well from these colonizers, they will come back in form of investors. They will lure us, and that is whatever has been happening all over Africa. Name any country. US said we know whatever it does and how it has come to be, even how it has it has contributed towards some wars in some regions or some countries. I won't go to the specifics because of time. So, and we've already said that even for the political atmosphere of any country, it will have that much influence to whatever these people or that seat carries. The uncensored remarks by Ruto on the issue of Congo, it was a minus. How Raila was seen by the South Africans how he handled the abductions and the brutal killings of 2024, June 2024, it still gives us a minus. Anyway, those were my thoughts. Thank you very much. I yield the mic.
Thank you, Collins. I wish you would have been here earlier on. You seem to have a lot to share with us, especially from your analysis on how this is going to play out. Weston, how much time do I give you? Because we are almost landing.
Little time, Eli.
Let's give you 3 minutes. Thank you.
Eli, I did not imply that Burundi is an inconsequential country. The point I made was this: you have to wrap up your backyard when it comes to some of these things. And if at the last minute you're still frantically canvassing your backyard, then it means really your campaign is built on quicksand. That's the point I'm making. That's the point I'm making. I'm not saying Burundi is inconsequential, no, but the Burundi should be one vote that you're sure about. Unless somebody is saying that these people have got a huge budget, so they just have to spend it. If it means you go to Burundi, that is it. Otherwise, there's no logic in sending a delegation to Burundi. That is one vote that should be in the bag. That's the point I'm making. Secondly, this chair, the Eli, Obet, and everybody, this AU Commission chair, initially, it was reserved for small, what you call small states in Africa, like Libya, Egypt, Nigeria, South Africa. It was like a gentleman agreement. Were not allowed, as supposed to front candidates for the AU Commission chair, because it was taken that because they were funding the AU, that they had enough leverage on how it functioned. But it's changed when South Africa fronted Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma, because South Africa argued, and quite compellingly, that since the formation of OAU until now, AU predominantly candidates from French-speaking Africa have held either the OAU Secretary General position or the AU Commission chair. Out of around 14 or thereabout people who held this position, we only have had 4 outside of French-speaking Africa, from Nigeria, from Ethiopia, the founding, from South Africa, and then from Tanzania, Salim Ahmed, who served for a long time. So South Africa broke that. And that's how it came to be rotational. It's not like Kenya is the one that pushed for that. Elias Island, you've heard it being said that Raila is a Pan-Africanist. William Ruto is a Pan-Africanist. I think those credentials will be put to test tomorrow, because the person who is sitting this test is not Raila Odinga. Let's get it right. It's William Ruto. This election is a referendum on William Ruto's credentials on the continent. It's not about Raila Odinga. So it's how his peers rate him. It's not how they rate Raila Odinga. So he claims to be a Pan-Africanist. Let's see how they are going to marry his Pan-Africanist credentials with his sending police officers to Haiti, for instance. Another very controversial decision. How a Pan-African country can do the American bidding in Haiti, a country that has suffered for many, many years because of imperialism. How you can do that bidding at the same time claim to be a Pan-Africanist. How a Pan-Africanist goes to Chatham House in London or USA to make a case for a presidential bid, both of them, when they were running. But you don't go and speak to students at the University of Nairobi or Kabianga or Kiss University, but you go to a university in the US to explain why you want to be president of Kenya. Or you go to Chatham House to explain why your agenda for Kenya is compelling, how you can at the same time purport to be a Pan-Africanist, both of them. I don't know how they're going to convince anybody. And as Island Obets, how you can claim to be a Pan-Africanist from a country that never supported the struggle against apartheid in South Africa, was never part of the frontline states that supported the liberation of the last vestiges of colonialism in Southern Africa, Zimbabwe, Angola, Mozambique. You were never. Of all the countries that were on the front line, including Tanzania, Uganda, Zambia, Zimbabwe, name them, Kenya didn't have any camps for liberation struggles from Zimbabwe, then was Rhodesia, South Africa, Namibia, name it. How, with that history, you can still convince people that you're a Pan-Africanist? How can you do it? How you can be a Pan-Africanist when BRICS had a conference in Johannesburg in 2023, when it was expanding? Many African countries and other countries beyond joined BRICS. When Kenya, you have just been elected as president of Kenya, you send some term delegation over there, and you didn't even join BRICS. To date, Kenya is not part of BRICS, and BRICS is a constellation of global South countries that are trying to cobble together an anti-hegemonic alliance against the asymmetrical power equation post-World War II. I can tell you, Elias Island, you know what Nairobi is waiting for? For a signal from London, from DC, or from Paris. You can now join. That's what they're waiting for. Let's wait tomorrow. I hope these things don't play out. Thank you.
Well. This is one of those spaces you wish you had time, but it's actually election night. It is exactly 35 minutes after midnight in Addis Ababa. Will Baba be coming home as Baba, or will Baba be coming home as retired general? Let's find out as we have this conversation tomorrow, as we monitor the outcomings. Eve, I'll give you a minute and a half to respond, and then we can have Obeds in that line.
Okay, I'll take this one as well as my closing remarks. So Eli Obeds and Western Marable Fabish 254 Jides, yeah. To be honest, I am disheartened. I am very disheartened, and the entire year, the whole time we've been fighting for this as Kenya, not for somebody's position, but as Kenya. My conviction was that we as Kenyans, not even the outsiders, but we as Kenyans, we would have even the most basic of understanding why we want this position as a country, not for somebody. I really hoped that we would come to a point that by now we would see the benefits. I could go on and on about what the benefits it brings, because I know what the benefits it brings. It's not just to the candidate, it's not just to the administration in Kenya, but it's also to the people of Kenya, because sometimes we take some things for granted as Kenya. Kenya has developed in Africa. And we have not, most of us have not gone to these other countries in Africa to actually see the status. Most of us, we've just been to Cape Town, we go to Cairo, we go to these beautiful cities, but we've not gone to countries like Malawi, Lesotho, Burkina Faso to actually see that we have a jewel in Kenya. So, and why is that so? You would be surprised. We don't have major minerals in Kenya that we say we sell to our partners so that we get foreign exchange to develop our country. You would hear, even in international circles, that the best resource we have in Kenya is our human resource, us the people. When we go out here, we have managed to build a very good profile for Kenyans. That's why you see Obeds, Eli, that when you as a Kenyan, you apply for a job at the UN or at the AU or any of these international organizations, you do not know, but you stand a higher chance because of the profile of Kenyans who came before us, what they did, that those organizations would say, oh, I would love to work with Kenyans. They are very good project managers. They are very good problem solvers. They are this. That does not happen by chance. Other countries don't have it. Tanzania down here, they don't have it. Uganda doesn't have it. The conferences we have in Nairobi, you hear big conferences like UNEA, the whole world is coming to discuss about climate change and environment. You hear conferences about agriculture. You hear conferences about peace and security. When they come to Nairobi and they go into those hotels and they pay money to those hotels, that is a commercial benefit to Nairobi. And these are just the few that I can mention. There are others that I cannot mention here because of one reason and time and things like that. But I could go on and on about the benefits. But let me leave it at that. So I'm really disheartened because majority of speakers who came up to this panel, the consensus is that they do not see the benefit. It's not going to benefit Kenya. It's not going to benefit, the region. But we stand to see there is a lot of diplomatic, happenings that have gone on that, again, I could go into it, but I will leave it at that. But then the verdict comes out tomorrow. The verdict comes out tomorrow. I would really want to respond to Western because he insisted on one particular question. Eli, if you would allow me. I agree with Western. I agree with you that we should not have some of these countries. We should be in a position that we are very close diplomatically, or we have influence with them diplomatically, that we do not have to actually go and seek out their support. I agree with that. In an ideal situation, that's what I would love to see. I mean, a Zoom call with the Senegal, and we are comfortable that it would bring in their support. That would be the most ideal situation. I agree with that. Unfortunately, Western, it's not like that. When we did a profile of our standing in the region, we are not in that position. That's why you see there's a lot of effort which has been put in. If we were in a good standing, we would not done much of campaigning. If we were commanding the much influence in ESC, which Burundi is part of it, we would not have to go to Burundi. Nobody wants to go to travel because they're seeking this, but because we are not, that's why we are seeking it out. I hope you sort of understand it from that angle. We are not in a very good diplomatic standing. You know that. Everybody knows that. It's not a secret. I'm not denying it. That's why we've really had to put a lot of effort in the campaigns. Otherwise, if we were good, if we had a very good standing, we wouldn't even have to campaign. We would just say we want this position, and the whole continent would back us up because we're in a good standing. But campaigns are there because we need to convince people. Why us? Why do we want it? How will Kenya having that position help them, Burundi as a country? And they might buy it and they might not. How do we know that? We know that tomorrow when we take the vote. And I'm really hoping that we've made a case and they've heard us. But if not, then also it's an indication to us that, well, you need to go and review your relationships with the continent, which we will feel bad for a while, but it will be a wake-up call for everybody else. So that would be my landing remarks. I'm so also disheartened, Fabish, that your prayers are countering mine, but we will keep praying. I believe that God.
Kindly, Eve, I would really be much humbled if you answer my questions, because I think
Dear.
this is a mizani where they say it's a balance of scale.
Okay.
So please, kindly.
Okay. I don't remember if I can remember your questions, but
Fabish,
yeah.
if you allow me, Fabish, if you allow me, we've really stayed
Yeah.
almost mid. It's almost 1 in the morning, and there's a heavy day left out for Eve and the rest of us. Actually, with your permission, if you can ask one important question from your many questions, and allow the rest to be discussed in the chat. It does not mean we are ending this talk. Kindly, one important question that you really need to ask.
One important question: why do we have to front one candidate then? Why not two?
Oh yeah, yeah. That was a very good question, and I'm glad you
Unacheki
Seriously,
Mombasa, Mombasa
okay.
tulikuwa na nani? Tuko na nyinyi wote. Kale kama Mombasa kale Nasir kale.
Okay.
Cheki tunamuona
Okay.
nyinyi wote vile mmetuuza nyinyi wakati wa
Yeah,
Moi.
no.
Koja wewe bro, wewe wacha mdomo wewe, sisi ni nywele gumu tumemuona. What the fuck? So tukiongea, wacha nikwambie hiyo marginalization, all that bullshit, we don't give a shit. Kwanza hiyo isilimu natoka.
Hello, Rasta.
Au island mmeseti hapo hivyo Isili. That island you have done there in Sili there. In our
Hello,
city,
Rasta.
capital city. You have taken the land of my good friend.
Hello, Rasta.
I'm telling you hapo Isili, the father had 2 lands and there are 2 children. And the father gave the father the title, said this child and this child. You know what? The Somali guys, they took 1 piece of the land, and that land nothing has ever been built there. And this girl, I'm with her in Netherlands from 2004. What the fuck are you telling me, no? So
Hello,
if I
Rasta.
take that personally, so man,
Oh.
I need to fuck them up.
You are. Hello, Rasta. Are you with me?
Yeah, man.
Yeah. Please, if you can you see my name there has something like a press desk.
What do you mean?
I'm asking my how would I put it? My name on Twitter on X is press desk. Yeah. Please,
go ahead.
I would need I'm trying to build a good platform for media, of which I would love people from your country to. I'm trying to redefine the face of media, especially in Africa, by bringing out the facts and factual of what journalism is
And
all
the
about.
best of the best. Will you call me?
Yes.
Are we setting a company or what are we doing?
Yes, what I want here is that I would love promotions from someone like you who has that platform already. You understand? So at least I want to use this platform to improve what the definition of what journalism is.
What am I getting from there? Because when I get in that rabbit hole, I don't stop. I'm autistic. So what I'm getting, am I getting paid? Because let's say I can take like 2 hours per day, for example. You must pay me.
Oh, now this is not for now.
Not a lot. 20 euro.
Yeah,
Per day, but we'll get money. We just do something. Okay, we start with 10 euro per day.
Okay, what's gonna happen is this. What's gonna happen is this. When I have that platform, it will enable me to be visible more and more, and also to get aligned with other countries.
Where are you? Where are you at?
Yeah, yes,
are you in Nairobi?
I am in Nigeria, but in Nigeria currently, we only have one serious media organization